Sena Medal for Gallantry and the Chief of the Army's Commendation twice, both for service in Jammu and Kashmir. He also participated in anti-terrorist operations against the Ulfa militants in Assam. As a brigadier, he participated in the first Indo-US exercise at a strategic level and was appointed as a mentor on both the US and the Indian brigades. He also served in Lesotho, South Africa, as security advisor to the government and the leader of the Indian Army training team. As a Major General, he held the prestigious appointment of GOC Dakshin Maharashtra with a mandate to run all army establishments, logistics depots, ammunition depots, hospitals and cantonments in 18 districts of the state. During his career, he taught in the infantry school at Mao, the Defence Service Staff College at Wellington, and Army War College at Mao. Sir, it is our privilege to have you with us. If you could share a few words of advice and encouragement with the students we have today.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to tell Sohani, Khushi, Swastika, and Anish something that I truly believe. You are quite clearly among the very best. And if you're among the very best in such good schools, you are clearly among the very best anywhere in the world. So I'm not saying this to make you happy. I'm saying this because I know it. So there is zero reason why you should have even the slightest cloud of worry on your minds when you go into the debate today. I'm just going to say a couple of things which I told the students yesterday. I've had the good fortune of debating in the National Defense Academy, in the Indian Military Academy. So I'm very well versed with what goes on. There are two things that usually happen. One is sometimes we tend to forget something, and sometimes we get overconfident and tend to say more. Please remember that in case you forget something which was on your mind, nobody else knows. Only you know what was on your mind. So don't worry about the sequence, don't worry about the flow. Just go on, and I assure you it'll come out well, as I saw yesterday happening again and again. And of course, you should try to stick to what you decided and probably not say more. The last thing, that's a good lesson to carry for the debate, and that's a good lesson to carry for life. Compete with yourself. That's all you need to do in this life. Compete with yourself. Don't worry about, Sohani shouldn't worry about what Anish is doing or what Swastika is doing and vice versa. You are already here among the best. So all the very best. You're all looking good, and go on and do your thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of encouragement. I'm sure the students are taking heed. Just a quick check for both the Major General Bali and the two adjudicators we have from the two schools, Akshika ma'am and Amrita ma'am. Do you have access to the scoring sheets?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Fantastic. Before we start on, we are very proud to be powered by Stayfree. Stayfree is a Johnson & Johnson brand, does a phenomenal amount of work for women's hygiene, especially for young women who are just entering their puberty. Here's a short message that they wanted us to share with everybody here.
मेरे पीरियड शुरू हो गए हैं। पहली बार हो रहे हैं मुझे, तो काफी अजीब लग रहा है।
पीरियड्स में मुझे आसान काम भी मुश्किल लगता है। बहुत दर्द होता है।
मैं किसी के पास बैठ भी नहीं सकती। और जब मैं उठती हूँ, बार-बार निशान चेक करती हूँ।
घर में एक ही वॉशरूम है, तो पैड चेंज करने में मुझे शर्म आती है।
मुझे पैड को कचरे में छोड़ना पड़ता है हर बार।
She may not understand what she's going through. She just needs to know. You do. Over 2 million girls will get their first period in lockdown. Your daughter or sister could be one of them. Talk to her. Tell her.
It's normal. It's just a period.
With that wonderful message, we thank Stayfree again for being a part of this zero-hour debate. We are very fortunate that this debate has now gone past the national borders. We have participants from various countries. Today's topic for the debate, this was already shared with you 48 hours prior to the debate. This house believes that social media is the only perfect democracy. I would repeat, this house believes that social media is the only perfect democracy. We have two teams today, Ramjas School, New Delhi and South City International School, Kolkata. For Ramjas School, Ms. Akshika Vyas is the adjudicator. Suhani would speak for the motion and Khushi against the motion. For South City International, Ms. Amrita Bhattacharya is the adjudicator. Swastika would be speaking for the motion while Anish goes against. This is the order in which we will speak. First would be Suhani speaking for the motion for Ramjas. Then would be Anish coming in against the motion for South City International. Then Swastika going for the motion. And finally Khushi going against the motion for Ramjas. Suhani, you're up first. Before we start with the debate, we would like to know you a little better, which class you're in, what are your favorite subjects, your hobbies, etc. If you could just take us through that.
A very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Suhani Mohan. I'm from Ramjas School, Puram. I'm an 11th grade student and I've taken up humanities. I have a keen interest in political sciences and sociology. I absolutely love reading books and composing poems. I also like to brush up my speaking skills from time to time. Thank you.
Wonderful, Suhani. If you are ready, timers please note, Suhani's time will start now.
Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression, to hold opinions without interference, and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media. Good afternoon, honorable adjudicators, moderator, my worthy opponents, and member of the audience. This house firmly believes that social media is the only perfect democracy. Etymologically, the word democracy is a combination of the two Greek words, demos, meaning people, and kratos, meaning rule. A government in which the supreme power is vested in the people. People's representation is the very spirit of democracy. The media has the power to shape public understanding, frame agendas, and most importantly, hold the other three pillars accountable for their decisions and actions by bringing public awareness and ultimately a public pushback on representatives and institutions. This is applicable to both traditional and social media. The reason social media has now become the essence of democracy is its widespread accessibility. The range that it covers is phenomenal. It has allowed for a diversity of viewpoints and public engagement on an unprecedented scale. For people to govern themselves, they need to have the information and then be able to convey it to others. Social media platforms make that a ton easier. Being informed and aware was practically translated into the inclusion of only the elites. But ladies and gentlemen, the tables have turned. It is a widely accepted medium. And from the richest to the poorest of poor, everyone has been placed on the same platform. And thus it ensures the fundamental right of every citizen, that is equality. Be it an eminent personality or a teenager like one of us, it gives us the chance to create an impact with its tremendous reach. The debate we are having now clearly proves the significance of media. In my opinion, democracy without social media is like a debater with no communication skills. Citizens are no longer bound by physical and geographical factors. The current situation gives us a proof to that. In line with the global trend, social media has been increasingly used by Indian politicians for routine political communication to directly connect with their leaders. From Chaiwala to Chokidar, our Honorable Prime Minister's online campaign was successfully integrated with their offline campaign. Social media played a prominent role during the 2019 Indian general elections. Virtual communication has provided unmediated and direct communication to connect leaders and citizenry to re-energize the political landscape in the country. Successful use of social media for political agenda building and publicity is evident in Pan India. campaigns such as Swachh Bharat and Fit India movement shall be considered. While it is true that anything can be posted on social media, we must not forget that it always stays there. Social media does not let it disappear. New opportunities such as social media assistant have emerged. It is a major driving force towards a digital world. While 313 million people are illiterate in India, around 420.7 million people have access to mobile phones. With a click of a button, the whole world comes in front of us to view the information, process it, and finally give our opinions. It raises us from the status of a subject to that of a citizen. Remarkably, in social media, even animals have their rights preserved. The way democracy has dissolved in the air we breathe in, social media has formed its space in our systems. With the stories being spoken and the issues being raised, a sense of collective belonging has developed. Well, it won't be completely wrong to say that the subsequent elections will 90% be held on social media. The power is finally bestowed to the people. What else does democracy work for? Lastly, I would like to quote Eric Wallman. We don't have a choice on whether we do social media. The question is how well we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Suhani. That was very well done. Brilliant arguments there. Judges, you have access to the scoring sheets. If you could start scoring. Suhani, you'll have to give us a few minutes while we get your scores ready. The scores are coming in. Just give us a few seconds and we shall tabulate them for you. Akshika ma'am, row 9 is for the rebuttal scores. We will have to wait for the rebuttal round before you can fill that in, please. Amrita ma'am, is that your final score?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you so much, sir.
Give me a moment, please.
Sure.
I think I'm facing an issue with this.
Ma'am, if you could read out the scores to me, I can fill them in for you. For the use of arguments, what would you like to put in?
This is out of?
Out of 5.
5.
Thank you, ma'am. I will empty out the row for rebuttal. For the presentation, for tone of voice, use of gestures and level of enthusiasm.
That would be again a 5.
Ma'am, this one is out of 10.
All right, because this is not visible here.
All right.
Okay, so make it a 10, please.
Thank you. For grammar?
Out
of 10 again. You can score 2, 4, 6, 8 or 10.
8.
And ma'am, for vocabulary, it's the same scoring, 2, 4, 6, 8 or 10.
10.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Suhani, right now you have your scores up on the screen. Very well done. Some very high marks there for the others to try and catch up with. We have not yet filled in your average because your rebuttal round is left. We will come back to the average once your rebuttal is done.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. Up next, we have Anish. Anish is from the South City International School, Kolkata. Anish, before we start, if you could know a little bit more about you.
So hello to everybody watching today's debate. My name is Anish Kumar Arun and I currently study in grade 11 of South City International School. So coming to my subject of choice, I had a bit of a confusion last year, but I ended up choosing the science stream. And to hobbies, primarily I enjoy quizzing, but I did start debating a year ago and I really fell in love with it.
Well, Anish, quizzing to debating has been a wonderful journey, I hope.
It definitely has.
If you're ready and if the timers are ready, we will start with your time now.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here today. I, Anish Kumar Arun, stand vehemently against the motion, for I do strongly believe that social media is by absolutely no means a perfect form of democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, now before I proceed any further, I would like to highlight a few keywords in today's agenda, which are only, perfect, and democracy. Now, it is a very well-known fact and something that has been agreed on by some of the world's foremost thinkers, journalists, and politicians, that a perfect democracy is a myth, a perfect democracy is an oxymoron and does not exist in reality. So today, not only will I attempt to debunk why social media is not a perfect democracy, but also that in certain circumstances, social media might just be detrimental to our democratic ideals. Now, to put it in a nutshell, a democracy is a form of government where we, the people, elect our leaders, and thus we are equipped with certain rights, such as the right to freedom of speech, the right to freedom of religion, and the right to unbiased information. Now, social media burst onto the scene in the early 2010s, with many hailing it as a fresh breath for our democratic ideals. But to all those people, I'd like to say that they are only looking at the face of the issue. In order to know the truth, we have to delve deeper to places where the proposition refuses to go. Now, the first point that I'd like to bring up as to why social media isn't a democratic forum is because it was never intended for that purpose. Social media was created as a platform for entertainment and communication, and that is apparent in the way it functions. So let me just illustrate this with an example. Suppose, for example, I go online to read about political party A. I spend some time reading about their manifestos, their policies, etc., etc. So now what the social media platform assumes is that these are my interests. And thus, I am bombarded by targeted adverts and targeted information, diverting me towards a single point of view. And eventually a point is reached where I am in a cocoon of information, a cocoon from where I can only see a single perspective, a single point of view, and rather than seeing the 50 shades of gray in between, I see only the black and the white. And this is something that political parties very well know. For if you think about it, they now have a ready system for distribution of propaganda. All they have to do is create content and pump it out, and we will consume it. Long gone are the days where manifestos had to be printed out on piece of papers. Now, I'd like to move on to the elephant in the room. An elephant that is so large that I am surprised at how wonderfully the proposition has managed to avoid it. And that, of course, is the implication of the right to freedom of speech on social media. Now, a recent poll conducted by Forbes magazine in 65 countries showed some astounding results. In 33 out of those 65 countries, there was a decline in the freedom of social media, whereas in 47 of them, there were cases of persecution on the basis of tweets and other form of messaging. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like each and every one of you to infer one thing out of my argument. At the end of the day, social media is under the ruling party's jurisdiction everywhere around the world. And they can use it technically however they wish, from surveillance to monitoring to filtering out content that they don't think we should see. And this has been seen around the world. In Saudi Arabia following the death of Jamal Khashoggi, in China following the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in Bangladesh following the Rohingya crisis. This is a large problem and one that still exists and looms large today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end with questions rather than answers. Is it a democracy when hate posts are being posted online and Twitter polls are being conducted, asking whether you are willing to shed another person's blood in the name of faith? Is it a democracy when a journalist who attempted to shed light on major issues such as the food situation in Uttar Pradesh government schools was jailed and beaten for days on end? Is it a democracy when the warriors for truth and justice are shut down at every turn, when they are bullied, when they are heckled, and when they are threatened with rape and death? These questions need to be answered if we are to come to a solution. But if you want to know my 2 cents on it, it's a very simple yet resounding no. Thank you and have a great day.
Anish, that was brilliantly done. Really, really impressive debating there. Judges, you have access to the score sheets. Remember, Anish is on the farthest right column. Please put in your scores there. Anish, quick question to you. Are you more accustomed to the parliamentary form of debating?
I mean, I was in a man a couple of days ago, so maybe it just transitioned. But I do enjoy this sort of debating. I like to keep it to the point and just
couldn't help notice the use of the word proposition on multiple occasions. That seems to be one of those PD hangovers.
I feel like it works in today's agenda.
Yeah, sure. I can see Suhani smiling. I'm sure she also has some one experience under her belt. And she can definitely afford to smile after putting up some hefty numbers on the board. Let's see how your scores match up. Akshika ma'am, I have your score. Is that the final?
I'm done too.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, Anish, this is your score up on the screen now. Good scores, I would say. And I think you have a job to catch up on the rebuttal. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we will move on to the next debater, Swastika Mukherjee from South City International School, Kolkata, speaking for the motion. Swastika, pleasure having you with us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. I am a student of South City International School, currently in grade 11, and I have taken up the stream of science. I enjoy reading. I'm an avid reader, and I am one of those students who you'll find in the dance room more than in class. So I'm into a lot of co-curricular activities, and I really enjoy that.
Wonderful. Swastika, if you're ready, yes, and the timers are ready, we will start your time now.
Thank you. The cacophony that you hear, that's the sound of democracy. Yes, it's very noisy and messy, but if you listen to it carefully, you'll see it's glorious, because at last, we can hear voices that we never ever heard before. A very good afternoon to all the members of the House present today. I am Swastika Mukherjee, representing South City International School, and I stand vehemently in favor of the motion that social media is the only perfect democracy. In a world without social media, and there was a world like that, as hard as it is for my generation to imagine that, I'm sure many of you all remember living in it. So in such a world without social media, a lot of facts that we now know today never would have happened. For example, the Women's March would have never happened without Facebook. The hashtag #MeToo movement depended on Twitter, so did Black Lives Matter. Schools are opening up pages on social media to present their viewpoints on parents rioting against paying school fees. Then you have the Parkland students hashtags. Now I realize me being in favor of this motion, I am making a fairly unpopular argument. Because when you hear social media, you think about fake news, Russian hackers, bots, echo chambers, and all things bad. I get that, I really do. But the resolution here is not social media brings out the best in humanity, or that social media can do whatever it wants and we'll be okay with it. No, the resolution here is that a world with social media is essentially more democratic than a world without. To support my point, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring to your notice that social media allows the aggregation of interests across geographical divides and is truly open to the exchange of ideas. It is a lot more transparent than any other electoral mechanisms. Now, if you go about asking internet activists in countries such as China, Cuba, and Russia about how social media changed their lives, fast forward until today, and I think we're all under the same widespread impression that the governments in these countries have won, right? Because China still has a pervasive internet censorship, Cuba is hardly a democracy, and well, Putin is very much in power. Please remember that, ladies and gentlemen, that social media is a tool. However, it does not single-handedly cause revolutions, nor does it single-handedly bring about a change in government. And if we are under the impression, it's because of the media hype and the general over-exuberance caused since the time of the Arab Spring in 2011. What social media does do, let me tell you, is widen the space for democracy. Considering the points that my worthy opponents mentioned, it's true. There isn't really anything called a perfect democracy. This is coming from someone who lives in the world's largest democracy. There never was, there never will. Because it's the opinion of millions of people, and it may differ, it may be wrong. But as close as we can get to it is having a true democracy. And that is when everybody gets to voice their opinion, everybody's opinions get heard. That's what social media does. So social media has already proven to be good for democracy. But let's be honest, we have met the problem. All these problems that were brought up in the middle of the debate about freedom of speech and misusing it, the problem is not technology at all. The problem is human behavior on technology. Propaganda, bullying, harassment are hardly new phenomenon and are not unique to social media. These platforms should not be maligned because of the misuse of others. As mentioned earlier in my speech, from Black Lives Matter to Women's March to local and political national campaigns, social media is the driving force behind all the main political organizations today that serve as the buttress for the modern true democracy. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube democratize information by allowing all citizens an unprecedented opportunity to have their voices heard. That's what we all want. And as Warren Christopher rightly said, without a free speech, without a free and independent media, true democracy is unattainable. With this, I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Well done, Swastika. Some brilliant arguments there. Judges, you have access to the scoring sheet. Swastika's scores need to be in the third column. I can see the scores coming in. Let me quickly tabulate them for you. Amrita ma'am, these are your final scores?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, these are your final scores?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Akshika ma'am, can I take that to be a final score?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Swastika, on your screen now, these are the scores given to you by the judges. Well done, some very high points there. And this debate is turning out to be very, very close.
Thank you.
With that, we come to the fourth speaker, Khushi from Ramjas. You have the advantage of having heard everybody ahead of you. You have the disadvantage of everybody taking away some of your points. So, before we start the debate, can we get to know you a little better?
Sure. I am Khushi Dikshit, a student of class 12th, and I study in Ramjas school. The subject of my choice is commerce. And like Swastika, I do participate in a lot of cultural activities, but yes, they don't include folk dancing. And today I'm looking forward to a very good argument. And I was already a good debate, and already I see that taking shape. So,
Khushi, while you're speaking, there's a slight lag in your video. I hope the connectivity at your end is fine.
okay.
Don't worry about it. In case we lose connectivity for a bit, we stop the time and we wait for you to connect back. All right? So don't worry about it. And Swastika and Khushi, I'm sure you'll connect later for the dance, but for now we'll proceed with the debate. If Khushi, you're ready, and if the timers are ready, we will start your time now.
A perfect democracy is undeniably a circumstance that neither exists nor is attainable. However, how my opponent mates consent to believe that a platform as manipulative as social media possesses the potential to become a perfectly democratic stage for all kinds of opinions, I fail to understand. A very good afternoon to one and all. Today, I shall speak against the motion, social media is the only perfect democracy. Social media, a virtual space which experiences monopoly of the rich and the powerful. Because had it really been equally accessible by all, including the poor, the hashtag Photographs for Farmers movement started in November 2018 wouldn't have died in less than a year. rather would have transformed into the largest social media movement of India, given the size of agricultural population we have, that is 70% of the aggregate. And not surprisingly, 82% of this figure belongs to small and marginal farmers. Hence, it is justified to say that social media creates differences. Additionally, this example hints towards the fact that on social media, they, monopolists of the social media industry, tell stories that in their opinion will interest the audience. It is not news when a dog bites a man, but when a man bites a dog. Ladies and gentlemen, the source of all fake news or social media is the very tool employed by politicians to run a mind-blowing propaganda that really blows off the minds of the citizens by gradually depreciating their capacity to think intellect. Henceforth, making people fall prey to all nuisances they destined to cultivate in the society. Fruits of such ill-intended efforts to polarize support of the masses are hidden from none. They were explicit from the Delhi riots on CAA that caused widespread loss of life and property, plus loss to students of Northeast Delhi who were not able to appear for their board exams. I ask my opponents, was this not a manifestation of hate speech made viral through social media? Did these acts not undermine democracy? Furthermore, I would like to throw light upon the perils of Google feed or the information cocoon that we are made to live in. The potential idea of being aware of only the selective information that we want to explore might sound fascinating for a start. However, it's a bitter reality from the standpoint of democracy. Getting filtered information with regard to topics that appeal to us confirms our biases and makes us prone to fragmentation. Yes, social media makes us prone to fragmentation because when we remain in darkness about the other side of the coin, we are unable to distinguish between truth and falsehood. In the end, I would like to conclude myself by saying that just because social media allows people to put forward their opinions doesn't mean it's perfectly democratic. It fosters fundamental rights, but not fundamental duties. It feeds citizens upon lies and fake news. It is a propaganda machine to twiddle with public opinion and then divert public's attention from all important socio-economic problems like unemployment to unnecessary fanaticism that harms democracy in numerous ways. It indeed pits people against each other, and hence, under no possible circumstances can social media become an epitome of a perfect democracy. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Khushi. That was well done. Some very forceful arguments there. Let's see how the judges score you. Give us a few seconds while we tabulate the score. Amrita ma'am, is that the final score?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's my score.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Khushi, those are your scores up on the screen now. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the first round where every speaker has put forth their arguments, the opening arguments that they had, and they have heard each other. I'm sure they've made notes as their learned opponents were speaking. Remember, in the rebuttal, you're rebutting the opponent bench, not exactly going against the other school, right? So Suhani and Swastika, you're both rebutting points put forward by Anish and Khushi. Suhani, if you're ready, we will start with your rebuttal now.
The first point I would like to reiterate is that social media has made Indian politics inclusive by allowing citizens who are traditionally excluded from politics due to geography and demography to gain directly and direct entry into the political process. My opponent stated, quote, that long gone are the days when manifestations were printed on paper, unquote. Thus, you you do believe that social media has led to the creation of a digital world. I completely agree with Swastika that social media has made it easier for common interest groups to organize. The fact that it gives voice and power to different minority groups is undeniable. As stated by my fellow opponent, that there is a monopoly being established. But then I wonder how people across the world empathized with George Floyd and sparked movements as large as Black Lives Matter. I wonder how enthusiastically Pride Month is celebrated every year on social media. Hypothetically, if our parliament becomes an unsafe place to present the views, will we just abandon it and debate on its insignificance? No. We will find solutions to resolve the issues, and that's where the various acts take over. The other side has failed to answer our point about the employment generation. There are powerful tools to call out the leaders and bring in the notice of public demand. My opponents also quoted an incident about journalists and effects of CA. I wish to know, where did you get that information from? Well, I get different perspectives from social media. Also, if we are in a cocoon, then how do we get the hate comments? How do they reach us? Why don't we filter that out? In summary, I want to point out that social media is the best aid to the cause of democracy. Political parties, politicians, and supporters use it extensively for political campaigning and communication. The reach of social media is incredible, and it is an inseparable part of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Suhani. Judges, please note that we went a little over the 2-minute time limit we have for rebuttals. I'm sure you'll mark her accordingly, but those were some great responses to the points made by your opponents.
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me quickly insert those points for you. And we have your scores, we have your averages. So Suhani, if you are looking to your screen, these are your scores up now. Out of a total score of possible 100, you have scored 92, which is a brilliant performance. Well done. Anish, you're up next. Do you have a question?
Yeah, actually I do. The rebuttal is only for the speeches, right? Or can it include previous rebuttals?
The rebuttal is for the speeches.
All right, thank you so much.
No worries. Anish, if you're ready with your rebuttal, your time starts now.
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. What I just said was one of the most popular lines from George Orwell, from one of George Orwell's most famous book, Animal Farm. And that is what social media is doing to us today. While it may appear that all of us are equal on social media, there are certain invisible hands that are creating stark divides and stark contrast in the liberties that all of us receive. As the proposition mentioned, that numerous activist programs have been able to work successfully on social media, but they seem to forget the amount of activism programs that got lost out, that got withered away, that got shut down due to some extremely inexplicable reasons. And now I would like to remind the House that today's agenda is social media is the only perfect democracy. Not whether we see a future where social media can be perfect or whether it has the ability to be perfect. So in a way, what I'd like to bring forward is that the proposition has worked towards our arguments. Today's debate has almost seen all four speakers speak towards the same thing, and that is what I am a bit confused about. In social media today, once again we see stark divide. Once again we see political pressure. Once again we see arousal of religious sentiment and jingoism. Because many would argue that there are no restrictions on social media, that makes it applicable for people to use wild jingoism and very passionate patriotism online to shut down some very significant arguments. And that is a problem that plagues any democracy. And in fact, if I may remind you, a jingoist start a social media that encourages a jingoist stance may just be the first step towards fascism. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. We could see that you had more points up your sleeve, but the time ran out on you. Judges, if you could proceed to the scoring sheet. The last column is where you are scoring Anish. Akshika ma'am, I have your score.
Yeah, thank you.
Amrita ma'am, yours as well.
Yeah, I'm done too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And Anish, we have your average score as well from the three judges who scored you. On your screen now, you should be able to see your score. Job very well done. Next up, we have Swastika. Swastika, if you have any questions, I'll take them now. Great. If you're ready, Swastika, your time will start now.
By connecting people across the world for free, platforms like Twitter and Facebook set the stage for a promising digital revolution, providing tools that help foster global relationships, break down long-lasting standing barriers that kept people and ideas from being heard, and serves as the ultimate democratizing force of information. Now, my opponents, even my teammate Anish mentioned that social media does not have any boundaries. But let me ask you a question. If out on public in person today, a hate comment is thrown at you, you have nothing else but to fight against it. But today on social media, if a hate comment is thrown at you, you have the power to report that hate comment to the authorities who will take severe actions. And my opponents kept speaking about how public don't handle it well. This is what happens to the public. But let me ask you a question. Who handles the social media? It is the public who handles the social media. You excuse that us public, we are the victims of social media abuse because we are the ones who handle it. So we are still in our early days. There's a lot of work to do. We figured out how to deal with it till now, and I'm sure we'll figure out how to deal with it in the future as well. So let's not play the blame game, and let's correct ourselves first, because I think social media is far more safe and better for democracy than what is happening in the outer world. Thank you.
Thank you, Swastika. Wonderfully rebutted. Some good answers there to the questions that have been thrown to the forebench. Judges, the scores, please. Sir, I have your score.
Yes, please.
I have all three scores. Just give me a second. Well, Swastika, you have your scores up on your screen now. This is a very, very close fight between the two schools now. Khushi, you quite literally have the swing vote.
Yeah, I do.
Don't be worried by it. It's a great power to have. Enjoy that. If you're ready with your arguments, we will start your rebuttal now.
My opponents claim that social media allows free and easy expression of views, which is highly desirable in a democracy. But here they forgot to note that in the quest to express opinions, people have ended up just expressing their views. As a consequence of which, streams of radical thoughts have started flowing into the mainstream. Social media has indeed allowed radicals to support criminals over police on grounds of religion, as we saw in the recent encounter case in Madhya Pradesh. Thus, giving everybody the right to voice their opinions has undermined the interests of society at large, which in no terms is healthy for a democracy. And in the most extreme cases, it translates into a scourge, confronting all of humanity and most importantly, youngsters, as observed in the Union Territory of Jammu of Kashmir. Next, my rival mates proposed a point that due to low illiteracy rates and in conjunction with easy accessibility of technology, social media platforms are in everyone's reach. However, there persists a huge gap between ground reality and statistical data regarding literacy, because a person qualified enough to just write and read his or her name is classified literate in India. And if tech was really within everybody's reach, then would CBSE really reduce 30% syllabus this year? Therefore, how in the absence of these prerequisites for a fair social network, my opponents intend to create a perfect democracy through social media, only they can. Thus, after hearing my opponent's views, I have only strengthened my stance that social media is not the perfect democracy. Over to the moderator.
Thank you, Khushi. Some wonderful rebuttal there. The judges are scoring you, and we will try and tabulate the scores really, really quickly. Sir, we have your score?
Yes, please.
We have all the scores. Khushi, if you're seeing your screen, your scores are up on the screen now. This is called a very evenly balanced debate. Ramjas School, 2 scores, 92 and 90. South City International School, 2 scores, 92 and 90. We could not have stripped this better. We are eventually going to sell rights to this debate to some Bollywood producer as a potboiler. But for now, we will have to take the democratic route. This is the part, ladies and gentlemen, where you, the audience, get to play a massive, massive role. Right now, the two schools are tied at an average score of 91 each. But the schools get a total score out of 125. And 25 points are awarded to the school having the best speaker of the day. And the best speaker is chosen by popular vote. What will happen is on your screens, you would see a poll opening up. I'm sure all of you are wishing that all your friends have tuned in today. If not, this is when you frantically start WhatsApping them. Before we move on to the popular poll, there are a few things that I need to talk to you about. One is about the company that we started, we work, and the company that is putting all of this together, Notebook. At Notebook, we create audiovisual content. Just as Khushi mentioned, if technology was ubiquitously available, Notebook is the kind of product that every child across the country can use to make their lives easier. Because we have more of 11 and 12s here, we decided to show you a small clip of a notebook video for a class 11 topic called Landscape of the Soul. Any CBSE students here? Suhani and Khushi, are you from a CBSE background? Yes.
Yes.
So from class 11, when we were doing our research across multiple schools, we realized that there was this one topic that CBSE has chosen to be in the syllabus, which dealt with differences of European and Oriental art forms. And unfortunately, students found it really difficult to wrap their heads around different forms of art coming from two different parts of the world. Have a look at the video. This is the kind of work we do for all subjects, for all topics, across all classes from 1 to 12 of the curriculum.
The chapter begins with a small anecdote about an 8th century Chinese painter, Wu Daozi. His last painting was a landscape which was authorized and sponsored by the Tang Emperor Xuanzong to decorate a palace wall. After his work was completed, he called on the emperor to view and appreciate his painting. He had hidden his painting behind a screen so that only the emperor could view it. The emperor admired the wonderful scenery for a long time, paying attention to the forests, the high mountains, waterfalls, the floating clouds in the sky, along with the flying birds and the men walking along a hilly path. The painter then informed the emperor that in the mountain cave at the foot of the mountains lived a spirit. The doors to the cave appeared suddenly after the painter clapped his hands. He then invited the emperor to come inside the cave and led the way forward. However, to the emperor's astonishment, the doors to the cave closed behind the painter, and the entire painting vanished from the wall of the palace. That was the last time the painter Wu Daozi was seen in this world. Such legends and anecdotes played an important part in Chinese classical education, as they helped the masters to guide their disciples in the right direction. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are filled with such stories. These were used by masters to explain the concept and meaning of art and to make abstract ideas comprehensible to their students. Another example of a Chinese painting is given where a famous painter would not draw the eye of a dragon he had painted in fear that it would fly away. The writer contrasts this with the European tale of Antwerp in the 15th century. A master blacksmith, Quintin Metzes, had fallen in love with a painter's daughter, but was afraid their love would not be accepted because of his profession. To win his love, Quintin sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a very realistic-looking fly on the master's latest panel. The fly was so realistically painted that the painter tried to swat it away. This story is an example of realism in the arts. Realism in painting is the attempt to present subject matter truthfully, as it is an originality without avoiding any elements. It is also called naturalism. Impressed by his work, the painter admitted Quintin as an apprentice in his studio and also let him marry his daughter. Quintin later went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. These two contrasting stories are used to highlight the differences between the objectives and approaches of Chinese and European paintings. European paintings are traditionally more figurative and realistic, while the Chinese arts are more abstract. Chinese paintings are abstract since they cannot be explained or defined in real terms. One has to feel or experience the artist's point of view. A Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes or see exactly what he does. He wants you to experience the essence of the inner life and spirit of the painting.
I'm sure that's right about enough of an English lesson for you. And if you think that's the end of the suspense, we have a small job to do before we can do that. Yes, Swastika, you'll have to live through this. So we are in partnership with Save the Children. Save the Children is a wonderful foundation that does a lot of amazing work, working with children across the country, saving their childhoods. Here's a short message from the CEO before we go on to the audience poll.
Save the Children was born in 1990. 100 years is not a milestone that many organizations or individuals can claim to have reached. And for us, it's been a tireless, relentless journey to ensure that every child has access to their rights. Every child has a voice. But when we look back at 100 years, because 100 is also a time to reflect, we wonder what it would be like to live in a world where children don't need to be saved. Perhaps we could live in a world where Save the Children does not need to exist. And so as we look at the future, we envision a world which is much kinder to its children. A world in which children no longer need to be protected from violence, where children are not needlessly dying before they turn 5, where every child is going to school, is learning, is playing, and is on that path towards fulfilling their full potential. As we turn 100, we pledge to work towards that future of a much kinder and brighter world for children. Every day, every hour, every minute, we will continue on that path. But we also know we can't do it alone. We want to work closely with the communities, with our partners, with the government, and most importantly, with the children themselves. They are going to be the change makers of tomorrow. Children like Onoyara, like Rahul, like Salman, like Mamta, they are the ones who are breaking gender stereotypes. They are challenging social norms, and they are changing the world and the lives of themselves and also children around them. We pledge to continue working with them, alongside them, to ensure that every child gets the right start. I'm Bidisha Pillai, and I invite you to join Save the Children in our commitment to ensure that every child gets the right start.
After that heartwarming message, it is now also my privilege to inform you that the team which wins the 0-hour international debate, the 2 students will get internships with Save the Children to participate in the brilliant work that they are doing. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the audience poll. I can see that the number of participants has spiked up. Well done, guys, on the WhatsApps. Swastika, I can see 2 users on my gallery with your name. Did you log in from another device?
No, I did not log in, but my account was logged in. I'm using one, but I have my phone, so it was logged in from there.
Can I remove that other account, please?
Can you not?
All right, we'll leave it on.
Thank you.
But if you must know that panelists are not allowed to vote, so that does not really give you a 1 vote advantage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is where it starts. On your screen, you would find the 4 speakers listed with their names of their schools, and I will launch the poll now. You have 1 minute in which you'll have to place your votes. We are expecting 230 votes to come in. And are they coming in fast? We've so far not had a tie on the audience poll. This one comes pretty close. We are 37 seconds in, 199 votes have been cast. Speaking of democracy, I think the voting rate here is better than most other democracies in the world. We get close to 100% voting. You guys can see the votes, right? As they come in. This is when you remember, did you wish all your friends on their birthdays? I shall end the poll now. It's been past 1 minute. We have 212 votes which have come in. In the 4th spot, we have Swastika at 15% votes. In the 3rd spot, we have Khushi with 20% votes. In the 2nd spot, we have Anish with 28% votes. Suhani with 37% votes. I think you just earned Ramjas School 25 additional points. Let me quickly fill up those points. While I'm doing that, I will invite Bali sir to, if you could sum up the arguments, give your words of advice to the children after you've heard them speak. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm at a little loss for words, even compared to what I saw earlier. If I was to say it in 3 words, it was articulate, thoughtful, and brilliant. Each one of the 4 were really terrific. And if enthusiasm was going to be a criteria for me to select somebody to take with me to a battle on the Chinese border, all 4 would be packing your bags right now, because I think your enthusiasm was par excellence, what the army calls Josh. Now, this is obviously a topic, an emotive topic, a topic of our times. All of us are grappling with it. I've grappled with it. I applied for a Facebook membership back in early 90s, and it was rejected because I was told it's only for Harvard people. So it goes back all those days. And ever since, non-stop, I've been on the social media. So I know where you're coming from. As you go forward, I'm not going to comment on what you said, because there's a kernel of truth on either side. But as you go forward, I would recommend to you to read a couple of books, which I have now put on the chat. Both the books by a guy called Cal Newport. One is called Deep Work, and the other is called Digital Minimalism. Don't go by this big name. Both the books are eminently readable. Both the books tackle social media and our obsession, distraction, and all of that. It doesn't talk about the democracy bit, though, I must warn you. Now, I said something yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. When you debate with someone, or when you try to make a point, or when you stand on any stage in the world, you've got to start thinking as to what is the most important element that you have to address. Is it your style? Is it your pronunciation? Is it your vocabulary? Is it your grammar? Is it your content? Is it the wonderful transition of slides? What is it? I'll give you the answer. It's the audience. If you can connect with the audience, and if you look at all the leaders on top, they all understand how to connect with the audience. So remember that. That's the number one thing. The second debate that people always have in their mind is between the content and the style. Now, both are important, but like I said yesterday, you cannot sell a bad product with good advertising. So your content has to be good. And then, of course, you have to worry about your style. Lastly, we are now in the virtual world. So you've got to learn how to face the little webcam in front of you. You've got to position yourself in a way that you are completely centered. There is sufficient light falling on your face. You look bright. And if you make gestures, they're clearly visible. That goes a long way. The last 2 things I'm going to say are not about the debate, or one is not about the debate. You know, I've been looking at the content that Notebook has made, the digital content. And I'm not saying this as an advisor, I'm saying this as a lifelong student, as a parent, as a grandparent. I really wish this kind of digital content was available in my times, because I think this is quite brilliant stuff. What you saw today, once you've seen it, it's going to be imprinted on your minds. It's a great supplement to education. So really great job, Notebook. Lastly, irrespective of how the poll went, not all popular polls get it right. I want to take nothing away from Sohani, who did a fabulous job. You clearly heads and shoulders above, but I'm saying this particularly to Swastika. You're a true champion. You were a true champion in my mind. Really well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those words of encouragement. Before we give out the final scores and announce the winners formally, I would now like to invite Achin Bhattacharyya to say a few words. Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook. Sir's wonderful words of encouragement for Notebook, all that has been Achin's brainchild. Achin, if you can have you, please.
Good evening, everyone. So we had a great session, thoroughly enjoyed it. Saw some commendable debating skills, excellent content, ably delivered by brilliant voice modulation and expressive emotive arguments. In fact, while watching the session, I was just thinking that, as most of you are already aware, we at Notebook have been holding the Together for Education webinars regularly since last few months. We have seen more than 10,000 participants, more than 100 eminent speakers coming in last 23 sessions. But what I'm seeing in this debate, especially from our young friends, really impressed to see so much of talent. And these are the people who will take the developmental mantle forward in the years to come. I also thank both the adjudicators and all the teachers who have worked hard to help these wonderful debaters to prepare. There's a lot of hard work. I understand that. And it's commendable. I also congratulate the proud parents. I can say today with full conviction that all four of them that I saw, it was a very evenly balanced debate. Very rarely we get to see kinds of debates like this. Very, very talented. And I also thank the audience for supporting the cause of public speaking. I sincerely thank the audience during this critical hour of pandemic. And at the end, it's a cause and spirit that wins. We have a winner for the day, but to me, each one of you and also the entire audience go home today as winners, having supported this cause. And yes, it's a pledge. We will not let anything come in the way of education of our children. And we all stand united in our resolve. And each one of them have our support. In fact, it's any endeavor in this world, it's a teamwork. As Shubha mentioned, whatever content we have done, it's a teamwork. So the entire team has supported. And during this hour of crisis, when we see today at Notebook, when we see more than 1 million users using Notebook, it gives me great pleasure. So I can say this, that the kind of effort I saw, the kind of talent I saw today in the house, that really gives me confidence, that gives me optimism and hope. Look forward to see all of you again in our second debate of the day at 5 p.m. today. Thank you all again. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you, Achin. This is where the suspense ends. The Ramjas School, New Delhi. One speaker at 92 points, another speaker at 90 points. 25 points for the best speaker, ending at 116 out of the possible 125 points a school could score. South City International, Kolkata, 90 points for one speaker, 92 points for the second. Unfortunately finishing at 91 points. But this was as evenly balanced as a debate can get. I think a job brilliantly well done by all four of you. The team from Delhi, I know you have some celebrating to do. Please do ensure you maintain social distancing while doing so. The team from Kolkata, please don't lose heart. What I've seen today is some of the best debating I've seen, and I've debated throughout my school and college and everything. And you guys have fantastic. I look forward to debating with you guys someday, very, very soon. With that, ladies and gentlemen, our winners for today, Ramjas School, RK Puram, New Delhi. Great show of sportsmanship, guys. The ovation that you got from the SCIS team. With that, we'll close for today. As Achin said, we invite all of you to join us at the second debate today at 5 o'clock with 2 more teams. And until then, goodbye.